Hi, everyone. This is an exciting turnout. We held our first veterinary and animal health peer discussion about 2 months ago, October 25th, I believe it was. That was our first ever. This is our second because we had a great time doing it. We had a lot of people who we sent it around to saying they got a lot of value from it. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to have conversations and share information and get to know what's going on in the veterinary field and animal health field outside of our direct experience. But first, I want to introduce Celeritas and what we do. So we have 10 plus years in the animal health community. We've been doing technology solutions for vets, pet owners, producers, distributors, reps. They're all custom technology, things like ROI tools and ROI calculator tools and suggested order apps, things of that nature. And we are always looking to learn more about the needs of people in animal health and the vet community. And with that, I want to pass it to our lovely facilitator, Mark Massara, to introduce himself.
Thank you. And I saw Paige just gave Paige. Thank you for coming. All my instinct people, that makes me so happy. Okay, so that was a little bit about Daniel and Celeritas. Really quick, I'm not gonna do a full bio, but full disclosure, I do not work for Celeritas. They are not paying me for this. It's just Daniel and I had a Zoom call once that I thought was an interview, and it actually wasn't. And so we hit it off, and then he reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to facilitate some calls?" I was like, "Sure." So no conflict of interest, in case anybody is wondering. But I am a vet by trade, with my dog whining. Come here, Willow. She wants to say hi. Okay. Oh, and somebody else wants to get admitted. Two people. Okay, I'm admitting. Oh, look! Wait, wow! Look at this turnout. Okay, so Don and Sharoon just joined. Oh wow, this is great. Oh my goodness. We said we had 15 people register, but we'll probably get like 5. But no, like 15 people came.
Yeah, that's great.
So, okay. So for those of you that just joined, Daniel just did a very brief introduction of Celeritas. Afterwards, we'll link their website, and I have all Daniel's contact info on the last slide. So if you are looking to learn more about Celeritas, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to do so. But we're at the point now where I'm introducing myself. So I'm Mark. I'm a veterinarian by trade. I grew up in an animal hospital, hence the 15 plus years. I'm 30, but I started teching probably around 13 years old. And then the last couple of years, I've started to move more and more into the technology space. So that's why I'm so incredibly excited. Dan and Paige are here from Instinct. That's how I spent the last year or so as a product manager at Instinct, which is one of the most revolutionary premier PIMS systems out there now. And I'm currently in Texas, working as a part-time operations manager, marketing lead, internal IT expert. And then the other half of the time I'm seeing cases as a veterinarian. So I'm kind of a little bit getting the best of both worlds, which I'm thrilled. So that's a little bit about me. Any questions about me, Celeritas, Daniel, before I jump into the first topic? Okay. All right. So let's jump into the first topic.
Well, before we do,
go ahead.
I would love to meet everyone in here.
Oh, yes.
I know that I'm familiar with everyone. I know we're going to be having a chat for the next 40 minutes. And so I'd love for us all to go through and do some introductions as well.
Thank you, Daniel. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
So let's go down the line. If we want to start at Joel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Joel John. I am a project manager at Celeritas, and I work alongside with Daniel for business development from UK.
Okay, great. And Melanie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Melanie. You can call me Mel. I work with Blue Pearl. I am more on the talent acquisition recruiting side, but we do a lot LOL. We do a lot of reporting, just keeping track of what's going on in our hospitals and things like that. So yeah, I figured this might be really beneficial to just kind of gain more knowledge and meet new friends. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Melanie. Don, do you want to say hi real quick?
Yeah. Hey, this is Don Hayes. I'm the sales director for Texas for MWI Animal Health. Just always intrigued with veterinarians that are interested in learning about their business.
Great.
Texas, we need to link up Texas.
Yes.
That's right. Alan, do you want to introduce yourself, Alan?
Oops.
Yeah, Alan's here.
Yeah, look, it's a technical thing and impossible to do it. Hi, guys. Good to see you again.
Hi.
Alan Robinson. I run a veterinary business development consultancy in the UK and also another company, Carpe Datum, which collects and feeds back dashboard data for independent practices in the UK as well. So, yeah, great to be here.
Great to see you again, Alan. Autumn, would you like to say hi, introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, my name is Autumn. I also work with Blue Pearl with Melanie. And so we thought it would be a great option to just join on this and just learn more. I did work in the Sarasota hospital for a little bit, but more in the administrative role. So yeah, we thought it'd be fun to kind of just dive in more and see what we can learn today.
Great, it's nice to meet you. Dan, I know you know Mark. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Dan Smith. As Mark mentioned, he and I work together at Instinct. I'm a data scientist, so I don't have any sort of medical background. I've been kind of tangentially related to the vet space for a while. My wife is a veterinary radiologist, and then I got involved in joined Instinct about 4 years ago now. Started part-time and then joined full-time a couple of years ago.
Great. Okay, it's nice to meet you, Dan. David Garcia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, maybe he's muted.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Ira. Would you like to introduce yourself?
And Ira just joined. So
Okay.
give him a second.
Okay, we got Paige. I know Paige knows Mark. Paige, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Paige Gamster. I'm a veterinarian in the Pennsylvania area. I also work full-time right now for Instinct Science as a hospital support veterinarian and implementation specialist. So excited to be here and support Mark and his endeavors.
Thank you, Paige.
Nice to meet you, Paige. And Pennsylvania represent. I'm in Philadelphia right now. Valentina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi, I'm Valentina. I work in veterinary medicine, veterinary acquisition, and marketing. So I'm a digital coordinator with Innovative Pet Care in Austin, Texas. So my day-to-day is a lot of digital, anything and everything that lives on digital in a computer, on your phones is me, social media, website, and a lot of other things. But I'm also getting into data analytics, and I'm trying to be better about measuring success. So I'm about to start a master's in digital communication analytics, and I thought this was like the perfect introduction kind of course that I could take and just learn more and see how I can apply it to veterinary medicine.
Sounds good. And then we have Shahir. Do you want to say hi, Shahir? Shahir is a coworker of mine, so I think he's coming in to just watch. But I think that covers just about everyone. So if you want to get into the first...
Well, a couple of people, and like I said, I want to give Ira a second. I'm also thrilled that Dr. Ira Gordon is joining us. I want to give him a second to get settled before making him unmute and introduce himself. Let me see. It looks like you're still muted. All right, but Dr. Ira Gordon is the CEO of Celeritas, which is an amazing company that is trying to help return ownership of veterinary hospitals back to veterinarians instead of these corporate entities. He also was one of the founders of VetPrep, which is the study tool that every single veterinarian I know use to study for their boards, right, Paige? And so I see he's muted, so I did a little quick intro for him. And then is that it now?
Yeah, we've yet to meet David Garcia. I think he's probably away from the computer, and I think that,
maybe. Okay,
so
we'll
yeah,
get started.
Go to the first topic.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so first topic we have is how are you collecting information and what better information can you prioritize collecting through data capturing software or by other means? So basically, what are you currently doing and how are you in terms of collecting specific types of information? And then what better information do you want or could you be doing? I know it's kind of a vague, open-ended question, but just to kind of kick things off. So anybody want to jump in on this? And it doesn't have to be just if you're a veterinarian collecting data. If you're working for a PIMS and collecting data, that works as well.
Mark, I'm happy to jump in if it helps.
Thank
like I
you.
said, I collect a lot of data from independent practices in the UK. We don't work with the corporates. And then we put this into a dashboard and benchmarking for our clients so we can actually do better business management consultancy. So our data is financial data and transactional data, client data as in numbers and behaviors, and then veterinary performance data. So really what they're doing regards their behaviors in the consulting room, repeat consultations, number of diagnostics sold, etc.
Amazing.
As you can imagine, there's a huge amount of data we can extract. Two big challenges: getting consistent data from 32 different PIM systems. So please help me. And the other thing is then data overwhelm for the client.
Yeah.
So we find it needs a coaching rather than, Jay, here's the data, because most people don't have the time nor the energy nor the inclination to tease out the insights. So I just put that forward as two sides of the data.
Amazing. I'll jump off of that. And I already apologize for my Instinct people for putting you on the spot because Dan said, I can't speak on behalf of Instinct. And I just already asked him to do that. So, but yeah, I'll kind of jump off that and say my experience is PIMS. So when it talks about data capturing software, I know there's plenty of things else out there, other third-party platforms, different dashboard programs. I actually just learned about one through Celeritas. That's almost like they, one of the friends of one of the employees at Celeritas was able to create this amazing dashboard that they showed me. So I know there's other data capturing things out there. Oh, David Garcia needs to be admitted. But my experience, and I think many of us, the way we get our data is through our PIMS. So right now I'm at a hospital that uses Cornerstone. Obviously I've used Instinct. In vet school, I used EasyVet. In practice, I use eVet. I have some experience with VetSpire, and I think you mentioned 32 different PIMs. It feels like sometimes that, we're dealing with 32 different PIMs all the time, and all of the reporting from the different PIMs is different. And exactly what you said about data overwhelm. If you send a practice manager an Excel spreadsheet with 57 columns and 4,000 rows, probably not going to be the best way to get compliance and also for them to get the information that they need. So how do we translate that data into an easily digestible form, but still getting them the information that they need to boost revenue, boost client communication, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to give the answers. Obviously, that's why all of you guys are here, but I just wanted to use that as a jumping off point for anyone to jump in. And how do you attack those issues that Alan brought up?
Yeah, I can kind of answer that a little bit. I think there's not like I don't think that there's an easy answer, but like you said, there's a lot of data that's captured through PIMS. And I think one of the big things is kind of using tools to visualize that data. And kind of one of the things that Alan said is like, also trying to help present it in a way that's intuitive and that's digestible, because yeah, with all the data that you end up capturing in a PIMS, it's kind of one of the big challenges is just prioritizing what you're going to show and kind of how you're going to display it, how you're going to allow users to slice the data, all that sort of stuff. But I think visualization helps a lot over you know, just providing like raw data.
Absolutely. Have you found certain ways of visualizing data to be more effective than others? And I'm not necessarily saying like pie chart versus bar graph versus scatter plot, but even from a higher level perspective, you know, spreadsheet versus chart, you know, and kind of digging into that. Have you found more success in one visualization scheme over another?
Yeah, in my mind, it really depends on kind of like what information needs to be captured. Like there's some like regulatory things like controlled drugs that need to be reported on, and that you kind of have to have like tabular data. There's other things like if you want to like understand how like what like the patient like visit count is or something like that, things that are kind of more high level, then I think that's where like visualization is a lot more effective than just having raw data. So I think, yeah, it's kind of thinking a lot about what you're trying to convey. And that's kind of like, you know, a big challenge, and takes a lot of like collaboration actually with the users of the product, obviously.
I'm going to pause before I jump in because I have things to say about what Dan just said, but I think last time we did a call, I was like, I talk too much as a facilitator. So Alan, I saw a hand.
I was just going to say on that front, we see there's two types of data. There's the internal data, what's happening in my practice, and so they want to see, you know, exactly where they are as a trend line. Have I got better? What's this mean? Am I getting up or down? And what does up and down mean? Is one way. So trend data is really useful for that internal, how the practice is doing. But every vet I know is morbidly interested in how everyone else is doing. So benchmarking data. So, and that's, of course, you've got to be careful with the cohort you put people in, and you need enough data to make that worthwhile. But that's sort of the other side is, well, as long as I'm not the worst one, I'm doing okay is kind of the approach.
I want to be in the middle to the top, right? And so I wanted to jump off something that Dan said about a patient visit count as an example. And one of the big things I heard after I left Instinct, before I joined Safari, I did what I call the Great Interview Tour, Mark's Great Interview Tour of America. And I interviewed with every consolidator, every vet tech company. And one of the consistent things that I heard over and over and over again was heat maps. We need heat maps. And one of the VP of operations that I interviewed with said, I need to figure out when to schedule my technicians, because if I just schedule a technician from 9 to 4 and I schedule the next technician from 3 to 12 and I do one, I'm not really meeting my needs, because Friday at 4 o'clock is very different than Tuesday at 8 a.m. And so if I just make a blanket schedule and make sure that every hour is covered by 2, 3, 4 technicians, I am grossly understaffed at Friday at 4 o'clock and grossly overstaffed at Tuesday at 8 a.m. And so this is where this idea of actually visualizing the data with another axis of time and date, instead of just saying, this month we saw this many visits, or this day we saw this many visits, where I want to see the change in the flow of how many people are walking into my animal hospital at any given time, so that I can schedule my staff more effectively. And that's one of the things that I think is so interesting and so powerful about data. It's not just how much money am I making, how many cases did I see, it's how am I going to use that data to change the way I'm scheduling my technicians or my veterinarians. So I just kind of wanted to expand off that and get your guys' idea about, are you using heat maps? Or I'm assuming many of us aren't, because I haven't really seen it that much. Is that something you'd be interested in, and how would you approach that idea?
Mark, I think that example of scheduling is probably really important as organizations get larger. that's going to become more and more important, watching client flow, and particularly as practices go to 24 hours or they're providing non-core hour services. That's critical. Of course, with some level of artificial intelligence behind that, I assume is what you're talking about, or at least machine learning. It can be reasonably predictive around how that can be handled, which must be a huge efficiency saver for these organizations.
Yes, I love that you brought that up. I actually wasn't even going in that direction, but now that you brought it up, I had another job that said, hey, Mark, we need a new way to schedule the staff. Right now, having one person manually go in and schedule every single shift and try, it's a nightmare. Anyone who's ever tried to schedule 30, 40 different, it doesn't even matter if it's vets and technicians, waiters and chefs, it's a nightmare. And so they're in human medicine, it's a bigger thing than it is in veterinary medicine, where they are using AI and machine learning. I can't remember the name of, I think one of them was called Tiger. There's a bunch out there now where you tell it, this is how many staff I have, this is the coverage that I need, and it spits out a schedule. So is anyone using that already? And if you're not, is that something you'd be open to or interested in? I'm opening it to everybody. I'm going to take the silence to mean nobody's currently doing it. Oh, David Garcia, go ahead.
No. Yes, we're not doing. So you interpret my silence as we're not doing currently.
Now, would that be something you'd be comfortable with? Because I know me personally, even if it's going to take me 12 hours on a Friday, sometimes I'd rather have all the control of scheduling every shift than to let a computer take that away from me. Sometimes that's to my downfall. I almost want to be in control too much. But would you trust in the year 2023 a computer to make your schedule for you, or an AI or a machine learning? Is that something you'd be open to?
Yes, no, I love the idea. I mean, that we can help with some software. I mean, to try to collect this data. I mean, in a machine learning or something like that, because I think maybe we are not using, I mean, the resources, the human resources, or other resources. I mean, optimizing. So, I mean, I'd like to implement something. I mean, for next year.
Amazing. All right, I'm gonna. I think, and this happened last time too. I think I'm gonna, unless anybody has an objection, I'm gonna bounce to the next slide, because we had 5 questions we wanted to cover over the time of the call, and we're on question 1. I think a lot of it is going to end up being overlap, but let's go ahead and bounce to the next question, unless anyone has an objection, and then we'll try to run through these next ones rather quickly. Okay, how do you protect data? I'm looking at you, Dan. And maintain the privacy of pet owner data. So kind of looking at this from the other perspective. Obviously, we want to gather as much information as we possibly can and distill out the important pieces. And every marketing director everywhere wants to know every single client's phone number, address, to send them all kinds of marketing material. But on the other side, how do we make sure that we're protecting that data appropriately? Open to the floor.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I mean, one of the points that Alan made is like, kind of how am I doing versus my cohort? And I think like a lot of people are interested in that, but I know a lot of times, like, you have agreements where you have to get very specific permissions to kind of give information on, somebody else's data. So like all that stuff is locked down, which there's kind of a trade-off between, how you can use it. Obviously, like there's a lot of data there, but on kind of the other side of that is protecting the privacy of the people that have the data. And just, I know like it varies by country, but in general, I think there's a lot of like guardrails that are set up around that I think are for the best, but does make it sometimes hard to use some of the data that you do have.
Awesome.
In the UK, we have a legal responsibility to GDPR, and I can't tell you what those 4 letters mean. I don't know if it's the same in the States or it's a global thing. But so that's always a bugbear when you are collecting data. So our decision was not to go into GDPR territory. So we don't collect any client data whatsoever, except a client ID reference number, which is obviously randomly generated by the computer.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting.
So the practice can see I had X number of clients by the number of client IDs I had, but we have no idea where they are and what we've thought about it, but the entry into that domain was a logistical and legal nightmare. So we stayed away.
And so you don't even know where in the UK that pet owner is. You just know, this animal was seen and this is the revenue that was generated. Okay.
I think under the legal side, we can get a postcode block. So postcodes in the UK cover a geographical area.
Okay.
And if we collect the first 3 letters of a zip code, postcode, we can find out where in the country, but there's no way that'd be identifiable. So that's as close as we can get.
Okay. And I don't want to make this a UK versus US
Yeah,
thing.
appreciate that. I just sort of clarify that.
No, I mean, in terms of what I'm about to say, I know when we're collecting data here, and I'm just going to use my personal experience, an animal hospital in New Jersey and an animal hospital in Texas, those are the 2 places I practice medicine most, are very different. The way that we price our medications, the way that we price our diagnostics is very, very different. And so I can imagine if I'm trying to produce data for a client and say, this is the average price of an exam or the average price of a CBC, and I don't provide that context of where in the country I'm talking about, that can kind of confuse the message I'm trying to get across. If the exam fee is $60 is $60 in Texas and $90 in New Jersey, and I say the average is, whatever, 75, that's not really getting across what's actually happening. So I think that's a really super interesting point, but I'm not sure, like Dan mentioned, how do we get around that? Because there are certain legal things that we need to adhere to. So I guess it's like Dan mentioned, getting permissions. Do we have to physically reach out to either the hospitals directly or these organizations and say, can I use the demographic portions of your data? To be honest, I don't know how we get around it. I'm taking the silence to mean nobody knows. But let's leave it. So let's leave it there as that's a problem that needs to be solved, is how do we get around some of these kind of loopholes that are a little bit in our way. And then, like I said, I have all the slides at the end that have follow-up and contact information. I would love for this discussion to kind of continue. So I'll leave it for a few seconds. You can raise a hand, you can raise a Zoom hand or raise a physical hand for people that have their cameras turned on. I'll give it another few seconds before I jump to the next slide. Okay, let's go to the next one. What insight can pet owner data give you? So barring we're not allowed to look at it, like this is the data you are allowed to obtain, your hospital or for instance, for a PIMS, the different hospitals that are using your PIMS, you're able to actually get this data. Now that you have this data, what insights can you glean from it?
I think this, it depends on what data is being stored. I know most PIMS would at least store like the location of pet owners. So you can kind of see like, relative to where your hospital is, where are your clients typically? So, you could get like some geographic information about kind of where people are at, how often certain owners are coming in. You also get a lot of information on the financial side of things about like, how out of all the people that came in, what's the cohort of new clients versus existing clients. So there's a lot of stuff that you can get with just like basic information that comes in.
I love that. New clients versus existing clients. That's every owner of every veterinary hospital I've ever worked for wants to know, how many new clients did I see this month versus how many existing clients did I see this month? I love that you brought that up.
Mark, I was just going to say from, me as a veterinarian, the clinical application of something. Right now, I work part-time at an urgent care facility. And, that's a new business model that's being kind of becoming more common. But even a way to fully assess the client in the particular area, what services are they actually looking for? Especially when you have, multiple different parameters, as well as what it's a specialty hospital, whether it's emergency, whether it's general care. And then as far as not only that, but you have doctors that you're hiring for certain hobbies or interests that they like. And, if you don't have that subset of clients that are looking for that type of medicine, they're not going to do well or flourish in a certain area. So, that could definitely be helpful.
If you hire a boarded surgeon that specializes in TPLOs in rural Missouri when nobody can afford a TPLO, probably not the best business decision. Yeah, no, I hear you. Anybody else?
Again, Mark, I think there's a plethora of insights and data from data only. You can do, and like I said, you can masses of it. Probably the question for the practice owner is, what can I do about it? Is this something I can act on?
Yeah.
Or is it just interesting? That's the way it is, and that's where I sit in the trend. And am I willing to do something about it? As in, do I invest in this as a project? Do I take it forward? And of course, then can I monitor this easily on a regular basis to see if I'm actually getting progress or not? Seem to be the challenges we have. I mean, when you, as you know, when you sit with data, you can see all, like, it's like the Matrix. You can see things that aren't really there. And you just want to get over enthused about it. But most clinic owners are busy and having to deal with it. So I think you've got to pick your fights to win. And depending on the strategy and where that practice is actually taking itself.
Alan, full disclosure, we originally wanted you to be the facilitator for this meeting, and I think this is why. Everything you just said was so brilliant. So I wrote down questions for the practice owner. What can I do about it? Is this something I can act on? Because I saw 47 golden retrievers last month. Is that what can I do something with that information? Should I be marketing to golden retriever owners? And then is it something I'm willing to address? So what's my ROI? What's my return on investment? If everybody, I'm just going to jump with the TPLO example, just because I feel like that's something I run into literally every single day. If everybody's dogs in a 25-mile radius are tearing their cruciates nonstop, and there's not enough boarded surgeons in my area, should I hire a boarded surgeon, or should I bring in like a moves surgeon, which is like a specialist that comes to my general practice to do these surgeries? I'm gonna have to pay them a pretty hefty fee, but is that a reasonable return on investment? Am I gonna build enough caseload for that boarded surgeon to make it worth it? And so can I do something about it? And if the answer is yes, am I willing to? Is it actually worth my time and money to do something about it? So I just think everything you said was brilliant. How are we doing on time? We're 11:30 to 12:30. We're on question 3. So we're actually doing pretty solid on time. So I just want to sit with this question for another minute, see if anybody has some ideas before I jump on to the next one. Okay, I'm gonna bring up a topic because so one of the things I did as an operations director, as a veterinarian, was I was always involved in marketing. It's just something I like to do. And then the marketing director, when I worked in Philadelphia, lived in North Carolina. So she needed help. And they always wanted everybody's emails. They wanted where they live. They wanted their phone numbers. They wanted to put them into SurveyMonkey. So my question to you guys is, are you guys using data from your PIMS or from another platform to drive marketing? If so, how? And if not, what data would you want to use, and what would be your goal with that data in terms of marketing?
That's a good question, Mark. I've been thinking the same exact thing.
If nobody speaks up, I'm gonna make Alan go again.
I'm trying to hold back because
I know you are. I know you are. I see you holding back.
No, but we just go offline and have a chat. I mean,
Yeah.
so no, but if it's useful, a view on that, my experience of working with independent practices, less so corporate practices, is marketing is almost a secondary thought. To be honest, right now, post-COVID, marketing is not an issue because we just have such over demand and such under resourcing practices.
Got it.
But yeah, we're shutting the books and turning clients away in actual fact. So
Yep.
marketing has shifted now to a retention strategy and a filtering strategy of actually, I want less clients, but I want the right clients. And I think that been a shift that vets weren't quite ready for. And I think it throws it back to that internal communications. And I personally think having a PIMS with up-to-date, complete client information is probably the most valuable tool you've got, because it's not, I'm looking for more of these, I'm looking for the best of what I've got. And then that goes to your communication systems, your messaging apps, your social media, all that sort of stuff comes a retention strategy from there. And so some way of making sure that the practice collects all that email addresses and even social media, Instagrams, all those sorts of things, I think is something vets shy away from, but probably could be better. It might be facilitated better by the PIM system.
I think so too, Alan. I think between that and just information about a pet owner or pet data, you know, what pets are going in for, what, if any, recurring health issues that seem to be appearing, that kind of information will give you the relevant key you need for customer retention and for increasing sales, or at least sales enablement in the independent vet clinic space when things like scheduling are an issue and there's not enough veterinarians, or there's not enough, there's not enough funding into the independent clinics. So I think it's also about learning how to use the data on what pets are coming in and why, how often, for what. I think that can be helpful too.
I have 2 cents to put in, if that's okay. This is very in my arena. Like I said, I work in marketing for innovative pet care. So we oversee over 75 hospitals across the US. So we are big on data to make our marketing really great. So we do grab data from the PIMS, but we also combine it with like internal corporate level tools that helps us get more specific in getting more than just email number and a name. We can get more specific in terms of where are they geographically located? What are they looking up on Google? What's their socioeconomic status? Are they leaving reviews? So we look into all of this, and then after that, we get even more specific regionally, because obviously what might work in Texas is not going to work in New York, or what might work for a general practice will not work for a specialty ER. So then after that, we get more specific and with what data works with what hospital operationally and regionally. But I mean, it changes the game. Without that, there would be no strategy, I would say.
And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and assume the data available to you is very different today than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There's so much more that you can glean now than you could in previous times.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's changing. It's all very new still. So like I said, even in my intro, we're trying to get better about now. So we have the data, we have strategy, we're executing, but we need to be better about measuring what came out of it, and then recognizing that pattern. And then from after you have a pattern, you know what works best and what doesn't. So it's a work in progress, I think, internationally in general, because the whole digital world is still new. So I think it's very fascinating and fun to go through it.
I love that. And I've had that experience, right? Like I've run marketing campaigns where it was like, okay, I did Facebook ads, I did Google ads, I posted on the website, posted on the Facebook. did I get more clients? Was it worth the $75 I had to pay Facebook? I don't know. Like, how do I judge the success of the marketing campaign? And I agree. I feel like that piece is still missing in a lot of places. So I love that.
Extra question for Valentina, though. What kind of tools do you think have helped with the accrual of new types of data and things like that? And
one big thing we noticed is Pet Desk. I don't know if most of you or any of you are familiar, but it is a tool for the hospitals to use, a client communication tool, essentially. So we recently transitioned, like, I would say, I don't know, 50 to 75% of our hospitals to Pet Desk. And we saw a big jump in ROI in marketing specifically. It was easier to start measuring results. It was easier to send out mass messages and have more call to actions. Because I mean, from a marketing standpoint, we know what they have to be doing, but they're obviously busy saving pet lives. So they don't always have the time to go in and maybe write an email or do this or do that. So it's made it easier for them, which overall made it easier. So Pet Desk is one thing. And then more, like I said earlier, more internal corporate tools. We are looking into I guess, partnering with, we don't know yet. We are looking at a couple of different things. We have an eye on Salesforce. So that should help a lot, because you can really map out the client journey experience is what we always prioritize and bring it down to. Like, what does the hospital's client want to see? We're obviously all clients in a way, we all have pets. So we are that pet owner. We can be put in that mindset really easily.
I love that you brought up Pet Desk. I went to a Pet Desk webinar yesterday.
Oh,
So
really?
I went to their inventory webinar yesterday, which was fantastic.
So it's amazing. I mean, it saved a lot of time for the hospitals. Clients can text or reach out however they want, text, email, phone, but yeah, it's helped a lot.
And I feel like that entire bit of the industry is kind of new. Like I said, I grew up in an animal hospital, and I don't remember all these client communication tools. I went to a talk set up by the VBMA in veterinary school where Mark Alcott came and talked about VitusVet when he had just started it. And now we have Pet Desk, we have VitusVet, we have Vet2Pet, we have IDEXX Pet Health Network Pro, which used to be Petly, and I'm forgetting 17 other ones. So as far as I can remember, growing up in the industry, you had Cornerstone. You didn't have this other third-party platform that integrated with Cornerstone that sent all your clients emails and text messages. So I feel like that is a whole brand new part of this industry that is going to provide tons of new data. So I love that you brought up the client communication tool as like the big one that you've been experiencing. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, 12:17. I have two more questions. Anyone give anybody a chance to jump in on number 3 still? Okay, let's go to number 4. We'll have some time at the end that we could just talk about anything. Oh, this is a big one. I split it into 3 parts. Just in full disclosure, Daniel wrote these questions, which I think are amazing, and then I kind of messed with them a little bit. So how are you currently displaying and interpreting your data, which we've already touched on with visualization stuff, but we can talk a little more. Is it in a usable format, PDF, Excel sheet, etc.? And how can this be improved? So we've actually talked about this a bit already, just organically, but just anybody want to add a little bit more to this topic? Specifically, how are we showing and interpreting our data?
I'll jump in again. Just
Awesome.
kind of it perfectly goes off of what I was just talking about as well. So the data is, I would say, 75% of the time in an Excel sheet, which I'm almost thinking is old school nowadays now with all these tools and resources. So I'm tired of Excel sheets.
Yes.
Or a tool that I forgot to mention earlier is Hootsuite. So I can pull a lot of data from there as well in a more cohesive manner, more visually pleasing, more easy to digest. So I like that a lot better. That's where I see, that's where we should be going, I think, where a platform has all of the numbers, but gives you the quick hits for you to have an easy digest. So I like that about Hootsuite. and Pet Desk can do that as well. So most of it is an Excel sheet, but those couple platforms that change the game can give you an easy digest with you having to read through numbers and columns and trying to figure it out yourself.
Now first of all, Hootsuite, is that Hoot suite?
Sorry. So yes, it's HOOTSUITE, and it's a social media management platform.
Okay.
So any pharmaceutical campaigning that we do, anything that is social media related, the analytics for that will be on Hootsuite.
Awesome. I can't believe I spelled it right, but I'm definitely going to look that up.
It's an amazing tool.
I've used it for two. It's great. I've used it before for a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
So so building off that, I know you mentioned instead of pulling the Excel spreadsheet, I can use some of these other platforms that are automatically presenting the data in a more digestible fashion.
Correct.
I guess my question is, are there tools out there that I could take the Excel spreadsheet that my PIMS is giving me and I could upload it into X tool, and that tool will take my PIMS data and put it in a more easily digestible fashion? Is that something you guys are doing?
So not us specifically, but I mentioned Salesforce, that we are looking into that. They can do that. They are a very powerful company. So we're looking into that for many reasons. And that is one big reason that we are looking into it as well. But yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's going to be, first of all, the PIMS are going to adapt, right? Eventually, if we do this same exact meeting in 2025 or 2027, the PIMS are going to be presenting us dashboards but in the meantime, obviously that ability is there, right? If we go to the Apples and the Googles and the Facebooks of the world, they have already figured this out. So I'm just wondering, is there a stopgap over the next couple of years where I can just take the Excel spreadsheet and shove it into another program? I'm sure I know my brother-in-law works for Salesforce. But I'm sure there's more out there. So I think that might be a really interesting place to investigate. Does anyone else have either a point on that or something else?
Yeah, I was just going to say there are a lot of tools that allow you to do that. Like Tableau is a big one, Power BI. AWS has something called QuickSight. So yeah, there's a lot of these tools where you can just like plug in tabular data. And they make it so it's quite a bit easier to generate dashboards. But there is some like learning curve to it. It's not like super easy like you would get just like a dashboard that's given to you, you know.
You have to feed it the right flavor of food and the right ingredients for it to spit out a meal. You can't just feed it chocolate and gummy worms and it spits out an apple pie. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing as Dan. It's not perfected yet with at least the tools that I've used.
Gotcha.
But the option is out there. The option's out there. I don't know though if there are any tools like that that are specifically targeted towards the veterinary community.
I don't think so either. Not that I've seen.
That's the thing. I don't know.
A couple of comments on that, Mark. Obviously, the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, is always a worry. So if vets aren't logging in under their own username, if nurses are entering information, if they're calling the same thing 3 different titles, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
drama.
Things I'm currently working on.
Is going to be a nightmare. So the PIMS do hold a lot of data. You know, the quality of that data is variable, we find, across the boards. The newer cloud ones are better for sure. But then they will write a reporting program on the back of that because they know that's what people want.
Gotcha.
We find, unfortunately, those reporting programs are written by coders, not business analysts.
Okay, gotcha.
And therefore, they're pretty stock standard, pretty useless in many ways. Don't really give insight, they give data tabular reports, and which is kind of what Excel is and everything else. So that's one challenge we had with that. I mean, I'm being a bit ungracious there, but
no, I love it. That's why I love you. I love that you say what you mean. You don't hold back.
So the other thing then is we find with PMSs, they're highly, highly protective of their own IP and their own reports and their own data. And therefore, for us to get an API, a connection into a database in a PIM system is the eighth wonder of the world that we actually even get that far. Because there's just no common platform, no integration, etc. Again, a couple of the newer ones coming out, cloud-based ones, will be writing or providing good APIs. And yeah, we get on with those, but some of the older server-based systems are just impossible. So we do extract data from these systems. We do not use the reporting systems that they use. We take raw data tables and we reclassify everything ourselves. And we find the difference between those two systems is exponential, basically.
How much labor is involved with that? You're not using what they're giving you. You're reclassifying everything. Is that someone's job on your team to do that? Is that a salaried position?
We've written the program to do that.
Written a program to do it. Got it.
Yeah. And it took us 3 years, but we got there in the end. And you can imagine, even the word consultation is spelt in 27 different ways. The word canine is not a standard English word, apparently.
A9 or K9. Yep.
Yeah, or any other permutation of that as well. And so that's what the system has to analyze. It almost is, well, our next step is a machine learning on top of that. At the moment, we've just got one very burnt out coder who's done that.
Okay, gotcha.
But it does work. It does give us sort of 98% consistency. So we're happy with that.
Nice. That's fantastic.
So those two complications of what the practice actually puts into the system, and then the multitude of way those systems are done, is the challenge for the veterinary data market. If I'm just another point, we then looked at Power BI, Tableau, and all those systems so we created a database. We could do that. We had a tidied up database. That was the first miracle we created. The second was then, how do we then visualize that? To be honest, we found Power BI and even they're both really good systems, but they again they're pretty standard outputs. And for some of the stuff and some of the insight we wanted for the veterinary market in particular, probably true of other markets, we actually went down a .NET programming. And I'm not the technician here, so I'm talking complete over my pay grade.
You made your own, basically.
We did a bespoke programming of our dashboards and stuff. So we could actually adapt it and get that visualization and get the reports to adapt more adaptable for vets to actually understand, because that was the third big challenge.
And I'm going to embarrass myself here, Alan. Tell me who you work for again. The name of your company.
Vet Dynamics is the consultancy business. Carpe Datum is the data company.
Carpe Datum. I love that. Seize the data.
That's the one.
Amazing. Okay, I'm obviously gonna look up everything about your companies after this call. Okay, 1226. Again, Alan, everything you said was gold. Dan, Valentina, everybody. This is like, Daniel and I have hopes for these calls, but we're like, are people gonna talk? I don't know. I think this is amazing. So that's question 4, 1227. I got one more. Let's try to do a quick 3 minutes on what is the utility or importance of customizing? I made Daniel add this one, of customizing which data is received and used. Every time I've ever been an operations manager, my dog just knocked over something, or worked for a PIMS, everybody wants to customize, right? I want to see this, but not this. So how do you guys approach that issue, this customization issue?
We don't.
Yeah. I love it. We don't. That's amazing.
I could agree with that. I think all data is good data. For us, maybe some data may not apply to marketing, but may apply to recruiting. So it's just about, it may not work one place, or it may not work now, but it's going to work sometime. We're going to need it sometime. It's beneficial to know. So I think it's not a bad thing to have too much data.
And so that's kind of one of those issues about how we visualize it. Instead of them saying, I don't want it, just hide it. You still gather that data, but maybe you don't show it all to them.
Just store it.
You just store it. You store it somewhere. Love that. I don't know how many times my old boss told me, our clients don't know what they want. They think they know what they want, but they don't actually know what they want. So we have to help them. So go ahead. I think Alan, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, put 5 vets in a room, you'll get 10 committees. So,
Yeah, got it.
so avoid that. But what we generate, because we get raw data and then there's process data, ratio data, and all the sorts of things over time. So we can expand a fairly small data set out to a lot of data. So we have a basic data set of about 128 KPIs, but we only visualize 24 on the front end. Then the rest is drilled down.
Got it.
I agree with that sentiment that veterinarians don't really know what they want.
They don't know what they want. They think they do. And not just veterinarians, practice owners and practice managers as well, right?
Yeah, but that is true. But I mean, from instinct standpoint, you know this, we've had clients want this, they want to be able to see this, want to be able to see that. And we follow up with why.
Why?
And a lot of times they don't even know.
They don't know. Well, my marketing director said she wants it, so.
Exactly. Or, someone says they need it and there's either they don't understand it or there is no true application for it.
Right. All right, 1229. I'm just going to put this slide up. Of course, we'll send this out to all the participants, but I'm just going to put this slide up so you have it. If you want to jot it down in your own, whatever area, like I said, we're going to send it. But anybody, last closing remarks? Anybody have anything on data in the veterinary industry?
Mark, thanks. I just want to, to add, because one of the tools that we are testing, for data analytics is a tool more related to the demand planning or SOP process, and it's Forecast Pro. We're still testing this software, but I think, we have the goal, to improve our forecast accuracy, because this is gonna help, with the perfect order, with the inventory days on hand and stuff like that. And I think, more from the perspective from supply chain, I think most of the companies, in animal health, I think it's gonna help a lot to have a tool that can help you in the demand planning process.
We didn't even, like I said, I went to a pet desk webinar yesterday on inventory. We didn't even talk about inventory, quantity on hand. And that's kind of one of the biggest ways we use data. How much Serenia do I need to order next month, right? Yeah. So that's a whole other second call that we'll have to do, is talking about data in terms of demand planning. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, and that actually reminds me of the suggested order app that we were working on at Celeritas because of that need. And that's something that we're trying to perfect, is kind of calculating exactly what you need, when, if it's recurring or not. And, so that's something that we're trying to pay attention to as well. I'm glad that you brought it up, David. With that, I'm going to send in the chat right now a link to Mark and I's LinkedIn, and then to the company's LinkedIn, Celeritas. And I know we're planning on holding events like this every month at least. And so I always look forward to seeing returning guests. If anyone's interested in facilitating, I'm happy to organize that with you. I know we're looking at doing a topic around mental health soon in the veterinary space as well, and things of that nature. So I'm really glad that everyone took the time out of their day to join in. I want to thank Mark again for facilitating and doing a darn good job at it. And
we need to get Alan to do the next one.
Alan, we're begging you.
Dynamic duo, Mark. Well done. No, thanks for that. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everyone who came. Dan, Paige, my person, Ira, everybody that like I said, Daniel and I were like, who do we think is going to come? Are people going to talk? And it always exceeds our expectations both times so far. We've only done it twice, so it's only going to grow from here.
Yeah, and I hope we can all stay in contact after this. I'll send out links to the recording that Mark took, and I look forward to us all keeping in touch. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.